Hello, this is Jason Wong, and this is my Unit 2 Activity 3 of making a video on laws and policies that affect teaching. So for this activity, I looked at 3 laws that affect teaching. I looked at the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. I looked at Title I, which is a provision of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, and No Child Left Behind, which is a reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. So I first looked at the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965. The act is an extensive statute that funds primary and secondary education. It was passed in 1965 as part of President Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty. It emphasizes equal access to education and establishes high standards and accountability. It aims to shorten the achievement gaps between students by providing each child with fair and equal opportunities to achieve an exceptional education. The act was originally authorized through 1965. However, the government has reauthorized the act every 5 years since its enactment. The current reauthorization of Elementary and Secondary Education Act is the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. I next looked at Title I. It's a provision of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act passed in 1965. It's a program created by the United States Department of Education to distribute funding to schools and school districts with a high percentage of students from low-income families. It was designed by President Lyndon B. Johnson to close the skill gap in reading, writing, and mathematics between children from low-income households and children from the middle class. To be an eligible Title I school, at least 40% of the school's students must be from low-income families who qualify under the United States Census definition of low income. Title I appropriates money to an education system for prevention of dropouts and the improvement of schools. Assistance for school improvement includes government grants, allocations, and reallocations based on the school's willingness to commit to improving their standing in the educational system. The way Title I works is that the federal government allocates money to the states, which then allocate money to the school districts. Funding is based on the number of low-income students in each district. School districts then identify schools that receive federal funds based upon a set formula. I'm interested in Title I because the school that I currently work for is a Title I school, and I didn't know much about it until I started this project. So Title I is used at my school, with the mission being that Title I supports the district's mission by creating learning opportunities for children to acquire the knowledge and skills contained in the state's challenging content standards in reading and mathematics. The goals for Title I are to provide support to students in meeting state standards in reading and mathematics, to supplement classroom reading and mathematics instruction, and to involve parents in their child's education in as many ways as possible. Title I assists students by giving students extra opportunities to learn through practice, review, or reteaching in reading and/or math. Students may receive assistance in small groups in the regular classroom or Title I room. They may use computer-assisted instruction, or they may receive mentoring by trained Title I staff. Title I staff members communicate with classroom teachers about the academic needs of students. I also looked at No Child Left Behind, which is the United States Act of Congress that is a reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. The legislation was proposed by President George W. Bush on January 23rd of 2001. The United States Senate passed it on June 14th of 2001, and President Bush signed it into law on January 8, 2002. It supports standards-based education reform based on the premise that setting high standards and reestablishing measurable goals can improve individual outcomes in education. No Child Left Behind requires all public schools receiving federal funding to administer a statewide standardized test annually to all students. The Act requires states to develop assessments in basic skills. The Act does not assert a national achievement standard. each individual state develops its own standards. To receive federal school funding, states must give these assessments to all students at select grade levels. If the school's results are repeatedly poor, then steps are taken to improve the school.